Microphones on, folks. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, February the 24th. For those that don't know and those watching, Mayor Brown is not feeling too well today and is not able to attend, in which case what happens is that the acting mayor presides over the meeting. We each are acting mayor for 1 quarter of the year. It just happens to be me this quarter. So having not done this before, nor even run a regular council meeting with video attendance before, I'm sure staff and council will keep me right on any procedure. I'd also note that Councillor Barecki is on the East Coast in the dark and is joining us by video. And I think we all really appreciate his efforts to be here from so far away. So as we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're honoured to gather on this unceded territory of the Comox people, and we thank them for their stewardship, their guardianship, their advice, and their friendship. And so we have an agenda. May I have a motion to approve agenda?
Don't move.
Second.
Okay, in favour? Okay, thank you. We have minutes from...
The minutes.
Second.
Okay, in favour? Approved. We have no delegations, correspondence, nor unfinished business. So the first report is the 2025 Active Transportation Fund grant application. And Joel, I believe. And Rob.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm pleased to bring this report to you with the purpose being to seek council support in the village's application of the federal 2025 Active Transportation Fund grant. A little bit of background. In late 2024, the federal government announced the first ever Active Transportation Fund, or ATF for short, as part of the targeted funding stream of the Canada Public Trust Fund. The main goal of the ATF is to increase active travel relative to car travel, increase affordability by providing economic value to communities, provide cheaper travel options over vehicle traffic, and to support efforts to mitigate climate change, as well as reducing road congestion along with air and noise pollution. An exciting part of this ATF grant is that it has a wide variety of eligible costs for funding that are typically not included in other grants. So items like lighting, greenery, shade items, and benches are included as eligible costs, along with the usual construction and safety upgrade items one might see in other grants. Design and planning costs are also eligible costs, which is great since these costs, since other grants typically require shovel-ready drawings in their applications, which, depending on the complexity of the design, can cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare. So that is a cost that has to typically be front-loaded by the municipality in order to provide an application, but these are eligible costs with this grant application. Multiple projects can be included in an application with funding being discretionary as to whether any or all projects in the application receive full, partial, or any funding. So we can list a group of projects, and it's up to the federal government to decide which ones merit funding or not. Let's see here. In total, the ATF grant contributes up to 60% of the total eligible costs in a project. The remaining 40% would need to be provided by the village. The ATF grant is also stackable, which means that other grants can be used to top up the ATF grant to help fund the projects. So for example, the BC Active Transportation Grant is an annual provincial grant that provides up to $500,000 per project, and it can be used to help fund the projects we're targeting in our application, whose funding isn't necessarily secured by the village at this time. The application deadline is February 26th, plenty of time. And the deadline to have all eligible construction for the projects completed is March 31st, 2030. So it's quite a large construction window. We're including 4 projects in our ATF grant application. These include the Ulverston Avenue and Dunsmuir Avenue Sidewalk Replacement Project, the Maryport Shared Streets Project, the 4th Street and Cumberland Road Complete Streets Project, and the Comox Lake and Royston Road Multi-Use Path projects. These details were identified in the village's transportation master plan. Most of the details can be found there in those documents. It's also important to note that in some way, all of these projects were listed in the village's 2025 to 2029 5-year budget, either as construction items or as planning and design items. So they're not entirely a surprise to be seen. As part of the application, we will be seeking design and planning costs for all projects in addition to construction costs. So as part of the grant application, a Class D estimate was prepared and the amounts are listed in the report. Given the significant cost for all the projects, the village's internal funding sources are not sufficient to fund the remaining 40% not covered by the ATF grant. At this point, only the Ulverston-Dunsmuir sidewalks and the Maryport Complete Streets projects have funding secured from the village. This means that staff will need to seek other funding sources for the 4th Street and multi-use path projects. So other funding sources could potentially be the BC Active Transportation Grant I mentioned previously, ICBC funding, DCC reserves, Community Works funds, or Infrastructure Renewal Reserve funds. Staff will bring forward a report to council with funding options for any projects that are awarded grant funding. The grant application is also formatted in a way that explains how each project will achieve the 40% funding from the village. So there really isn't any risk in our application being disqualified for not being able to guarantee or secure those remaining funds at this time. Before we get into any questions, there is one housekeeping item. In the draft resolution, we should remove the 40% mentioned, since the Maryport and the 4th Street projects, the total construction costs include ineligible funds. So we should probably remove that, the mention of the 40%, and replace it with the village's portion.
Can I just clarify, Joel, that the recommendation has three paragraphs? Are you saying that in the second paragraph we should strike just the number 40% and just say funding a portion? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, in both the second and the third, it says funding a 40% portion. You could just say funding the village's portion in both of those sections.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
All right, and that's it for me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. I'm sure there are a few. Who would like to begin? Neil. Councillor Barecki. Sorry.
I'm just happy whenever we see these linear infrastructure improvements here. I agree with you that the funding a portion of it, if it happens, we may have to fund a bit more. I wouldn't want to see us hobbled by just the 40%, but yeah, that's about all I have to say while I collect a bit more of my thoughts here.
Okay. Others?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a few questions. Where do I want to start? I'm a bit worried of free money at this point, because it always ends up costing us a lot more in the end. And I can see already that we don't have a plan for funding quite a bit of this work for our share of it. I'm wondering if it would be wise to scale back this ask a little bit and try and keep it more within our budget, especially with dam projects coming up that, again, we're not sure how we're going to fund any overruns on, and other things that are going to come up as we go along, I'm sure. So to that, the Dunsmuir Avenue sidewalk, I went and had a walk up and down both sides. They seem okay. What?
That direction, this section past the recreation center.
Yep.
It's a section past the recreation center for Dunsmuir. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, between the CRI and Egremont.
Yeah. And is it in that bad a condition, or like it seems like that maybe that would be a project that, I mean, eventually we're going to be hopefully doing something with this block, and then that might be a time to look at
So
sort of repairing it, limping it along until then?
yeah, so its replacement was identified in the 2025 to 2029 plan. So
Yeah.
really this, including it in this application is just helping get funding, so we don't have to completely pay for its replacement.
Okay. The Maryport, I love the idea of Ulverston, getting a sidewalk on Ulverston, getting something on Maryport. What is the Maryport one envisioning?
So that was the Complete Streets project as part of the Transportation Master Plan engagement process. So that would be mostly line painting and traffic circles
Okay,
in the intersections between Maryport from 1st to 7th.
okay. I also did a bit of a drive down there. What are we painting the lines on in certain sections of that? There isn't much to even paint lines on in some sections of that road.
So the sections that aren't currently ready
Yeah.
are again in the 2025 to 2029 plan for utility replacement.
Yep,
So road reconstruction is part of that work.
okay.
So the sort of dressing up, the TMP projects, which is what this is,
Yeah.
would be included in that work.
I see. Okay, so I'm all for that. That corridor, getting that to be walkable and safe is great. The other one that I'm wondering about, if it's something that should be in this near future, is the multi-use path from the Yellow Gate here to the Chinatown Park. Again, it would be great to have, but that's another project I can see we can put off. We do have Camp Road as a low traffic, should be slow area that people can walk and bike that will get you there as well at this point. I guess kind of what I'm getting at is I'm not sure how we're going to find the funds between now and 2030 to pay for our share of some of these larger projects. I really do like the Royston, or the Royston Road multi-use path. I think that's going to be a great addition, especially to the end of Ulverston. I'm not sure, but it's not that big a section to add on from Ulverston to Union, but eventually that'll get used, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from on that.
All right.
I don't know if the rest of the council feels the same, if we should exclude any of these for now, or if we should ask for funding for all of them, and then if we don't build them because we don't have the money, we just give back the grant money at the end? Is that?
That is what I was just going to suggest. There's relatively low risk in this.
Okay,
We put forth our grand design to the 2030 deadline, and it's up to the federal government to decide which projects warrant funding or not. I mean, we're going to be completely transparent in saying that we don't have complete funding at this time, but we'll be seeking it. So it's up to them to provide their funding
Yep.
based on our rationale. But my understanding is, through consultation with our consultants and our grant writing consultants, is that if we are awarded the money, we're not necessarily entitled to or obligated to spend it. So if we can't meet our funding requirements, then we can just return the money.
okay. Do we, as part of the application, do they ask us to prioritize at all?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
And right now, the rationale is that we're prioritizing the projects that we can fund.
okay.
Thank you. Councillor Berkey, I think I saw your hand wave in the darkness.
Yeah, I was, I agree. I think we should just try and apply for the whole thing, and then, as we see the funding come in, because Troy is right. It is, you do have to be a little skeptical that all of these options are going to come in. We scale the project back accordingly, but I really think you should go for the entire plan here, and then and hope for the best. I see the ICBC possibly and the provincial being both not questionable, but they're definitely not. They're not set in stone, or they're not give me. So yeah, I don't know. I'd go for the whole thing and then scale back accordingly.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, if I may. Just firstly, pure factual. What is a Class D cost estimate?
So Class D is 30%. So in this estimate, it's a Class D, so it has a 30% contingency built in. And
30%
then we have a
contingency.
30% contingency built under that as well.
Right.
So the estimate that we got back is quite conservative.
Right. Thank
So,
you.
and that was done for a couple of reasons: economic uncertainty, and between now and 2030, and inflation and construction costs have been a little hard to nail down.
Just a
but
little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, the cost estimate that have been provided is conservative on top of conservative.
Okay. Which goes to my next question, which is what happens if this grant is awarded and then costs rise? Who is the excess entirely then our responsibility to find?
Yes.
Okay. I think I've now heard the answer to my most important question, what is if we get the grants and then find we can't complete the project, it appears there's no, other than maybe a slight reputational question, there's no negative consequence for the village. In other words, we're not on the hook to complete. We can give it back, was what I heard you say.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. Then if that's the case, I'm comfortable with that. And you answered my question on prioritization. Thank you. So I would echo, I think personally I'd echo the other, Councillor Sullivan and Barecki, certainly that sounds like there's not a lot to lose in submitting this for everything, asking for the moon and seeing what they're willing to give us and then seeing if we can fill the gap, because I look at this map and that's one picture that says if we have a chance of getting all of that in the next 5 years, I want us to go for it, if there's even a slim chance of that happening. So that's where I stand on this.
Can I ask just for some clarification then, because Councillor Terrian brings up a good point, is the last approval that we are using a strategy for the rest of the village's funding? Is council saying that they would like to, if our funding sources can come in, would it be the Royston Road multi-use path first? Is 4th Street in there at all? It's a $3 million project, but it's been on the books for a while. We've never been able to get the funding for it. Like, how did you, depending on the scarceness of the funding that we can come up with, how do you prioritize those?
If I was going to make a priority list here, personally, I would go Ulverston and Maryport, 4th Street, Royston multi-use path, Cumberland Road, and then the last one I would be looking at would be the, what is the name of that? Sutton Road, or the Lake Road multi-use path would be at the end. Personally, if I was going to prioritize them.
I would ask is this something that must be prioritized at this point for the application, or is it, you did talk later that if successful, because they may say, well, we'll give you money for 1, 2, and 3, but not 4,
Yeah.
and then you do the work to bring us funding options. Is that what decisions must we make today, and what decisions will we get an opportunity to make once we know more about what is or not awarded?
I should have mentioned previously, so the multi-use pathways that we've identified here are considered one project.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can't be broken out?
They can. I mean, there is some benefit to including them together,
Okay.
and that's the strategy we took.
Okay.
Was there an answer to that?
I was going to say I had a question, which was to what degree, what decisions must be taken today that will lock us into something in regard to this grant around prioritization and funding, and what decisions will we get the option to make when we know more about what we have or haven't been awarded?
Well, I think we have enough for the grant. I mean, the way that it's been described here, the priority ranking is in line with how we're going to formulate the application. And then after the grant gets awarded, assuming that we are successful in it, then we would come back to council with an update with how we intend to find the remaining funding.
So that would answer your question. You're right. Then at that point, that would be when you guys make some prioritization decisions. Probably you don't need to think about that at this meeting.
Right. But the prioritization we're telling the federal government through this grant is set out as you laid out.
Yeah.
And which I think matches Councillor Tyrion's
Yep, pretty
order.
More or less?
Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Other than the Dunsmuir Avenue sidewalk, I think I heard, but that's already in the financial plan that was
Yeah.
approved back in December. So.
Okay. Councillor Tyrion, you're still thinking through. Do you have more you'd like to ask?
Yeah, just on the Dunsmuir sidewalk, is it just simply this side of the road here?
Yeah.
And mostly just repairs to that lower section?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, so we're not tearing up the upper sidewalk or anything like that? Okay,
No, that would be a application in itself, I think.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep, good. Thank you.
It's more of an asset. You're likely that section is being put through the budget
Yeah.
because of an asset management
Yes.
situation needing to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
You heard
I'm
what
good.
you need?
Yep.
Okay.
Right, I'll move the council support the Village of Cumberland's application for 2025 Federal Active Transportation Fund Grant, and that council approve funding of the village's portion of the Alverston Avenue and Dunsmuir Avenue sidewalk replacement project, and the Maryport Shared Streets project with $105,000 from Community Works Funds Reserve and $457,520 from Linear Asset Renewal Reserve. And that council approved funding the village's portion of the 4th Street and Cumberland Road Complete Streets project and the Comox Lake Royston Road multi-use path projects with the following funding strategy: review options to use development cost charges reserve funds, seek additional applicable provincial funding, and seek applicable funding from ICBC, and use available internal village funds for remaining balance.
Second.
All right. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
And let's hope for some success there. All right. Thank you for that. So we are now on to item 7.2, Cumberland Events Society, the Village of Cumberland Memorandum and of Understanding Amendments. Ryan.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So, as we heard this afternoon at the Committee of the Whole, as we all know, the Village and the Cumberland Event Society have a long interwoven history of delivering cultural events over the Victoria Day long weekend in Cumberland. In an effort to clarify the roles around the event, we drafted and assigned Memorandum of Understanding just ahead of the 2023 event. And since then, that document has helped really facilitate coordination of the event between us. At the time that council approved the MOU, they also gave staff authority to approve changes that are strictly operational in nature. However, the proposed changes that are before you tonight, we think go beyond operational. They're primarily around roles of mayor and council, with a couple of small exceptions to that. One proposed change is operational, and that we touched on it this afternoon, that the Event Society will distribute event invitations rather than the village, but the village will still be responsible for coming up with that list of dignitaries. And one of the changes to the MOU specifies that council members will be included on that list of dignitaries as well. One other small but not insignificant change of the document, again touched on earlier this afternoon, is the renaming of the events themselves to May Days rather than referencing Victoria Day, which, as representatives of the Event Society mentioned, are just part of modernizing, decolonizing the event itself. So I haven't I've outlined the proposed changes in the report. I haven't gone into them in detail right now. I'm happy to if you'd like, but otherwise I'll just open it up to that or any other questions you might have.
Thank you. Council?
No,
Councillor Berkey? No? Councillor Turin, did you have something?
No, I like the name change. The other alterations are minor and seem to be in line with what you guys both want to do, so seems fine to me.
Good. May I just confirm these have been come to in full agreement with the society, so we've basically the two parties are bringing this agreement.
That's correct.
Thank you. Can I just ask on the change you're making to 211.3, clarifying the role of the mayor at the May Queen luncheon? The mayor will be given the opportunity to informally introduce. Tonight's event, actually, where the mayor is unwell, brings to mind whether that clause should specify the mayor or alternate, so that should it just ends up that one or two councillors are there, then the dignitaries are not unrecognised or introduced.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a reasonable addition, and I wouldn't foresee any objection to that.
All right. Would we need a motion to send that amendment back? Okay. Should I make it?
I'll move that any references to the mayor in the MOU be changed to the mayor or alternate,
Yeah, where relevant. Yes.
where relevant, yes.
We have a seconder.
Second.
Okay. In favour? Thank you. Okay. And
Irrelevant.
yes, exactly.
You just figure that one out yourself, you guys.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a recommendation on the table, which I guess would need to be slightly amended to say subject to or something. Yeah. Someone care to move the motion?
I'll move the council approve the memorandum of understanding between the Cumberland Event Society and the Village of Cumberland as amended in February 2025 and attached to the council report dated February 7th, 2025 with mentioned edits.
Second.
Okay. In favour? Yeah. Was that? I'm sorry. Did we miss something there, Councillor Berkey?
No, I was just seconding.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. And this chairing thing needs to be on the right page, don't you? 7.3, the High Ground Forum and Policy Review. I think that's yours, Rachel.
That's mine, yes, thank you. The purpose of this report is to seek council endorsement for the mayor and any other council members that are interested to attend the High Ground Civic Governance Forum that's taking place March 7th and 8th in Vancouver. This forum isn't considered in council's conference policy, so it goes above the policy, so we'd like to have council endorsement. The mayor did receive a bursary for the cost of registration, which the full cost of that is $660, but there's still travel costs and accommodation left over to be covered. Currently, it's looking like council conference budget will be able to cover everything that council signed up for this year, but it's always a bit unpredictable and difficult to get a firm budget because those costs are so variable. But it's looking good that this cost will be able to be covered under the current budget. But just in case it's not, the recommendation that is for any costs above current budget to be funded from the General Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Okay.
Also, staff is recommending that council instruct us to explore an update to the council conference policy to allow a bit more flexibility for members to attend more conferences. It is pretty limited, but there may be some flexibility that we could look at and maybe look and see what other small communities across BC do to sort of get the most out of their conference budget.
All right.
And we could bring that back before budget, hopefully, in the fall.
Discussion?
I suspect that there's room there because I won't be attending AVICC this year, and I'm happy to see that portion of the budget fund this. Yeah, seems like a worthwhile
No
project.
issues.
No issues. Councillor Berkey, anything?
No, I know in other municipalities, it's been indicated this looks like a very worthwhile conference, and I totally support flexibility there, especially considering we're not going to be using up all our budget in the regular conferences. So I support this endeavor.
Very good. I'd support the high ground endeavour. I'm not available, and I think it would be just Mayor Brown who would be attending. So I believe. But anyway, so I'd support that piece. In terms of reviewing policy, does that fit within the scope of your existing work plan?
It would be an addition to the work plan now, yes.
Because I take it really we're set in for 2025 now, aren't we? So any policy update would be relevant for 2026, which is also an election year. I wouldn't mind, unless we believe there's a big challenge here, I wouldn't mind delaying that until there's a new council who may have different views on it, and doing that policy work after the in early 2027. But
I support that.
yeah.
And really, it was just that's a totally good solution. It was just really to allow, if you guys did want to use up extra budget here and there for extra things, to allow some flexibility. But we would have to do best practice review as well and everything. So you're better off just waiting, because I think we do review it for after the election anyway.
It does feel like, certainly in my brief experience, it feels like there's enough flexibility here, and has been, and for us to work through things. So I wouldn't support the second recommendation just for those reasons, to not overload your already overflowing desk. Yeah. Okay.
I'm good with that as well.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, would someone care to move a recommendation?
I'll move that council approve council members attending the High Ground Annual Civic Governance Forum, and any costs above the current budget to be funded from the General Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Second.
Okay, in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Any other recommendations connected to this? Okay, so I will move us on. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you.
Bylaws. 8.1, the mobile vending regulations and cannabis retail fee change amendment bylaws for first and second reading.
I would like to recuse myself for conflict of interest due to my employment at a cannabis retail store.
Okay, thank you for that declaration. And we will let you know when the item is concluded. Okay, with Councillor Barecki here by video, we do still have quorum. Just for those watching at home, it might look like there's only two of us here, but for clarity, we have quorum. Thank you. Please, I believe we have Seamus and Andrea. Please proceed.
Great, thank you. So good evening, Council. So the purpose of this report is to request first and second reading of zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 1225/2025 and business license amendment bylaw 1226/2025. So this is a two-part report, so I'll be presenting on mobile vending regulation updates, and then I'll hand over the podium to Andrea, who will discuss a cannabis retail licensing fee decrease.
If we are going to split it into two parts, should we invite Councillor Sullivan for the first part?
Let me just see the...
For the mobile vending?
May I just check on protocol from our corporate officer or someone? Yeah.
If it's possible to separate them.
Yeah, I think bylaw 1226 addresses both.
That's correct,
So
yes.
that's where it becomes difficult.
Okay.
And then the mobile vending topic is covered in both bylaws. It would be difficult to separate the topic.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, you okay with your point of order?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that then.
Carry on, please.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just for background, so on the mobile vending side of the project, so the scope of this project was to improve village regulations surrounding mobile vending operations in the community. Last winter, staff conducted engagement on this topic with the business community and general public. Of course, we presented our findings from the engagement program and received feedback from the Advisory Planning Commission in June of 2024. And throughout the fall and winter, we've been drafting our amendments as well as preparing checklists to present to the general public. So overall, the amendments we will be presenting tonight reflect the direction in the engagement as well as information provided to us by the Advisory Planning Commission. So the first major change here is the definition of mobile vending. So currently staff have the zoning bylaw, I should say, has three definitions for different types of mobile vending. However, there is no difference operationally between the definitions. So we've crafted a new definition that combines the three into one definition just to streamline that review process. It's in line with best practice found in other municipalities. I know a lot of municipalities just have one definition for mobile vending. And so we took that approach when crafting this new definition, which will apply to both the zoning bylaw as well as the business licensing bylaw. We've also made changes to the business license bylaw as well, and this is where the bulk of the amendments are proposed. Ultimately, the aim to request more information was our goal with these amendments. So in the business bylaw, we're trying to organize applications better, so we're requesting more information up front. So this includes a waste discharge plan, which outlines how various wastes from mobile vending operations are to be discharged. We're also setting expectations clearer up front, so including requirements for BC Safety Authority technical approvals for the carts, as well as obtaining photographs of mobile vending operations as part of that application. Again, trying to set some of these expectations up front for applicants to abide by. We're also looking for controls for on-site operations as part of these bylaw amendments. So for example, in the business license bylaw, we're going to have a provision for waste containers to be provided. So these waste containers would be provided in line with the waste discharge plan. So for example, if the waste discharge plan outlines that they have recyclables like cans or bottles, they will be required to provide a container for such recyclables. So the waste discharge plan is going to be guiding which garbage and other waste discharge containers we will request on site. We also have a new provision which was not previously discussed during the APC or some of the engagement activities, and this is regarding tying mobile vending licensing to a particular location. So currently, applicants could receive a license on one property and operate on another property without obtaining a second license. And this can be a challenge because by not providing an application for a second license, staff do not have the opportunity to review compliance with other requirements like zoning bylaw and business license bylaws. So this proviso will require a license for new locations, and this is in line with other municipalities and how they approach the matter. Finally, we do have some changes to the zoning bylaw as well. The principal change to the mobile vending section of the bylaw is implementing a 1 meter setback from all property lines. And this goal is just to provide a clear expectation on where queue areas as well as preserving access to lots will be. So this way it just gives us something to point to when we do an application intake. We're also doing some housekeeping updates in this section as well. For example, the requirement for having approval from Island Health was moved to the business bylaw just as a matter of housekeeping, since it seemed more appropriate to be in that bylaw, as it's not a land use matter per se. So of course, as mentioned previously, we've completed an engagement program with the greater community regarding this topic. And of course, as required by the Local Government Act, we've published bylaw amendment notification in the Comox Valley Record, as well as posted on the village website. As the zoning bylaw amendment complies with the official community plan, no public hearing is required, and there are no public hearings required for business license bylaw amendments. Of course, there's still an opportunity for the public to provide comment on the draft bylaws, and as of the 2 p.m. deadline today, there was no correspondence received on the topic. And so that concludes the mobile vending portion of the report, and I'll pass the floor over to Andrea to
Would it be appropriate to ask questions on this portion while Seamus is at the microphone, and then ask questions on the next portion? I think that would.
Yeah, I think that works.
I think
that makes sense.
Well, we're focused on this bit. Okay.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Council. Any questions?
I mostly like all the changes that are here. I'm just curious, does the mobile vendor have to be located on a private property? Is that the intent of the zoning bylaw? Or is there a way to apply to operate on a public street?
Right. So there's always been the provision for a mobile vendor to operate on municipal streets as per the streets and traffic bylaw. We just don't get many applications of them, but the ability is there. However, they would still be held to some of the standards in the zoning bylaw as well as the business bylaw.
So that would mean the 25 meters from another business portion, from another food business or something like that?
That's correct.
Okay. And then is there a provision for that business to waive the that restriction?
That's correct, yes. So those standards are not being amended. So if a business, for example, falls within that 30-meter radius,
Yep.
the mobile vendor can approach that business and request a permission slip that they then have to present to us to demonstrate that they're okay with that mobile vendor being sited in the radius.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I just clarify that for you, Councillor Terry, and is also if somebody were to park on a public street, that would require a business license
Yeah.
each time. Like, whereas somebody on private that's just there the whole time is a business license application.
Yeah, they would need a business license for each street location that they would want to be at,
That's correct. And we
so that they could present their garbage plan and their queue plan and et cetera, right?
exactly, yeah. And of course, we'd be referring it to the operations department for comment as well.
And then, does this in any way apply to food vendors that show up for special events, for market days, village
Right.
May days, et cetera, or are those covered under those licenses?
And that's correct. So those vendors would still be covered under those special event licenses.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Councillor Berkey, anything?
No, that was my question, so that's fine. And so for one-off events, they still have to have a business license for that location regardless. And is there any flexibility within that, or does it have to be defined to that specific location? Or let's say for market days, if they have to move up and down, or not market days, but a special event like Halloween or something else, if they were on Dunsmuir and perhaps they got stall C and instead of stall A and they applied for their business license, would that impact them? Like, is there flexibility along the length of the street for special events?
Can I clarify that what I think I heard you say earlier was that that's not a business license, but it's a special event license?
That's correct.
Special
Yes.
event.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
so if it's part of a special event on Dunsmuir, then that operation will be covered under the special event
Okay,
regulation.
thank you.
Yep.
No, that was my question. Yeah, thank you. That explains it.
Thank you. Mine is only that thank you. You included in the climate change considerations because I was there at APC and felt strongly that it would be nice to find a way not to have generators running in the downtown core. I understand that, and thank you for doing the research and considering that. Not entirely fossil free because I think that a combination of propane and electricity is a okay intermediate step, but I understand that even that. I since have bumped into the Pink Moon Cafe, who were at the garden centre at Comox, who entirely their food truck and their F-150 Lightning they bought, and they pull the food truck around and power it from that electric vehicle, and they've told us that they've actually seen a saving of money as well. It's actually been better for their business. So I hope that's the future, but I get that we can't enforce that yet. It's not, the technology isn't there. So thank you. So that was a comment, not a question. I have nothing further. Okay.
Great.
So that's nothing further on the mobile vending portion. Then I believe we're over to cannabis retail.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so back in April 2024, Council directed staff to consider a reduction in business license fees for cannabis retail to make them consistent with similar businesses. So we've reviewed the cannabis retail fees for business licensing, and it was originally set at the current rate to account for regulatory uncertainties and anticipated admin costs that come with a newly regulated process. So with established provincial regulations, the administrative burden for cannabis retail is now lower. cannabis retail now operates under similar compliance and reporting requirements as other regulated industries, such as liquor retail. As a result, a reduced fee would align cannabis retail with comparable business categories in the village. So staff is proposing to reduce the fee to $110 from $3,250. So this would be a reduction of $6,280 in revenue for the 2026 budget year. And these changes are proposed to take effect 2026 business license renewals, which will be issued in November of this year. Just a note too that we are doing a review of business license bylaw fees, including some engagement with the community, an analysis of some admin costs, reviews of best practices, and looking at other comparable municipalities. So aside from the addition of the cannabis retail and production facilities into that business license fee schedule, there's not been any updates since 2009. So just as a result, there's probably going to be further amendments to the fee structure, and we'll bring those forward to council once we've completed that review. So, any questions?
Thank you. Council.
No, I'm in favor of this. Yeah, they should be regulated like any other business in town. And when, a rough idea of when the new fee structure will be coming forward?
Yeah, so we've done sort of the preliminary work and some best practices, and now we need to do some engagement. We've done one round of surveys with the business community. We'd like to do some more, and it's all sort of based on timeline. I can't really say exactly, but I would say in like 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
ideally
would
be
enough
done
estimate.
prior to the renewals in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Berkey, anything?
No, I support this. I think business should be all regulated equally, and this one was came in a little bit high when we were first considering it. So yeah, I support this amendment.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel if we must license businesses, and having come here from a country that doesn't, I kind of wonder why we do. If we must license all businesses, then we should license them all and treat them all equally, and that the cost we charge should be on a fee recovery basis, not on a sort of profit basis. So the very first step for that is to bring them in line with every other business, which is what you're proposing tonight. And then I'm looking forward to seeing the next set of work, which I hope will lay out the rationale for licensing and the cost recovery basis. So yeah, thank you.
I just want to clarify as well, like the 2025 business licenses have already been sent out,
I understand.
and so this is effective 2026.
Yes, I have paid mine.
Yes. Same.
All right. Okay. Any further discussion? Anyone care to move? That's it from staff. So it's time for.
I'll move that council give first and second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 1225, 2025, and that council give first and second reading to business license amendment bylaw number 1226, 2025.
Second.
Okay. And call a question in favour? Okay. I see no opposed. Thank you. Would you care to invite Councillor Sullivan back to the table? Thank you very much. You weren't listening.
Don't listen.
All right. So, next item, 8.2, Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw, number 1227, 2025. Michelle, are you just going to introduce this?
It's just for adoption, so there is no, you already gave first, second, and third reading last
Good.
meeting.
Then I guess we just need the motion.
I'm just looking for it here now. Where is it? Nope, that's that one.
Councillor Sullivan, would you like
Oh.
to vote on that piece of paper?
Yeah. I'll move the council
many
adopt the revenue.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Brecky.
That's all right. You're away. I just moved the last one. Go for it.
I'll move the council adopt the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 1227, 2025. Oh, is that the, yeah. That was it.
Yep, that's correct. Do we have a seconder, please?
Second.
Okay. And all those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, there being no new business. We have notices, motions, and announcements. Matters here include notices and motions to hold meetings of Committee of the Whole or a Village Hall meeting, public hearing, or anything introduced by a council member. Please check cumberland.ca/meetings to confirm them because dates may change. So on this one, I'd like to say there's a liquid waste management plan public info session on Tuesday 25th, that's tomorrow, at 4:45 to 7, with a presentation and Q&A from 4:45 to 6 in the council chamber. And Councillor Turin, is that the last of this?
Yes, I believe this is the final chance for public input.
Okay.
There is a possible borrowing component that is attached to this, so this is the last chance for public to weigh in on that.
Okay, thank you. And then there will be a policing town hall at 6 p.m. on Monday the 3rd of March, followed by a village hall, all in council chambers. This is, I believe, the first time in at least a very long time that our police service has asked to come and talk with the public in a town hall type forum. And so I would encourage as many people as possible to come and do so. And we'll then follow with a regular village hall for, again, one of the few opportunities for fairly freeform input, right? And then there's a wastewater advisory committee meeting on Thursday, March the 6th, 2025 at 1 p.m. in council chambers. And did I miss anything? Okay. All right. Question period. I see no one in the audience anymore. Is there any question online?
There is a email question, and I think this is referring to the active transportation grant.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the corner of the Peace Park not included in the bike lane?
Well, subject to possible correction from a CAO or a member of staff through the CAO, my understanding is that area around the Peace Park is subject to potential construction as part of a Coal Valley development. That when Coal Valley reaches a certain number of units, there's a roundabout and associated construction around there, and until that is clear, it would be unwise for us to invest a lot of money in doing our own work. Is that? Would you like to add anything?
Nope, that's correct. That's why it was missing.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And anything
No
else?
more questions.
All right. Okay. So 12, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
In vote. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, folks, from Homo Bobby Orr.
Okay.
We miss you.
Good night,